Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's go over a medium question that I just solved on my own after a lot of trial and error. So I'm really happy about this because I was kind of surprised that I solved it on my own, but I did after, trying last week, last month, months ago. So let's try it again. I'm pretty happy about this. So basically this one wants you to describe the painting, and you have this long description that I'm not going to read, but basically just follow the picture. 1 to 4 is incremented by 5, 4 to 7 is incremented by 7, 1 to 7 is incremented by 9, and then follow exactly what this picture says. So 1 to 4 and 4 to 7 count, but 1 to 7 doesn't count because 1 to 7 is already taken up, so we don't need to duplicate it. And basically just try it, and if you run into edge cases, then try to adjust based on the picture. So I feel like this description is kind of unnecessary, but either way, let's go ahead and try to do this. So let's go ahead and try to keep track of the beginning of the end, which is going to be up to 9, it seems like. So let's go ahead and make a dictionary, and let's actually keep track of the minimum start and the maximum end, which is going to be float of infinity because anything's smaller than infinity, and then float of negative infinity, anything's going to be bigger than that. So for S in segments, we only really need to keep track of the end because the start is always going to be 0, and that makes it easier because basically the start sometimes is 1 and 0. So let's go ahead and keep track of the end. So as it says right here, the start and the end, and the value is denoted by S of 0, S of 1, and S of 2. So S of 0, S of 1, and S of 2. And now what we want to do is basically keep track of this. So D is default dict of integer. We want to track the fact that we had an increment on start by value and a decrement by value and end, because for example, if we want to increment 1 to 4 by 5, then we actually have to count 5 out, and this will make sense if you print it. Did take a lot of trial and error for me, but basically 1 to 4 is 14, and then 4 to 7 is 16, as you can see, because 14 plus 2 is 16, 16, 16, and then 17 is minus 16. So maximum end is going to be the max of ME and end. Let's print ME. That should give you 9, or 7 in this case. Sorry, I was looking at 9. That's the value. So 1 to 7 is the range, right? So just to be safe, let's make list range of 0 to ME plus 1, and let's print A. So now this becomes more clear. We have a range that we want to work with, which is 1 to 7. And then we want to basically reflect these changes in here by making another prefix array of 0 of the same length as A. So we're going to have to do this again, which is not bad, because if we iterate over our segments again, right now we have what looks like, so again, let's copy this. Start, end, and value is going to be the same. But now the reason this is why I did the 0, because basically we want to know is the value we're going to increment within the range, we want it to match up with the index, right? So we don't have to say dot index to find where it lies. So for example, we're finding 5. If we have a list of only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we're looking for 3, we can just say, okay, we're going to increment index 3 directly in this prefix array, instead of having to look at, okay, what is the index of 3 in A, and then convert it, which takes n of time by itself. So that's why I did the 0 right here. And now we can just say if 0 is less than or equal to start, which is less than or equal to the biggest, is going to be A of -1, which is 7 in this case, right? So it's within the range. If it's within big, then we can directly inside of P just increment the index, right, by value, because we want to accumulate that. And vice versa, we want to do the same thing with end. If this is the case, if end is not bigger than 7 and its end is bigger than 0, then p of end minus equal to value, right? And if we print p, we can see that this works out perfectly, because now we can just increment this directly. So let's say k is accumulate of p, and if we print k, now that's great, because 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. So 1 to 3, and then 4 to 7. Again, you might have to play around with this a little bit, but that's the idea. So, okay. And now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because what we have to do, let's get rid of this. Okay, so what I was doing before is simply just going over this one more time, and I'll show you what I got wrong the first time, which is just doing this again and adding 1 and 7 as well. So basically saying, let's just say the current segment is going to be, like, the value of that is just going to be k of start to end. Let's print curseg to make sure. Okay, so 14, 14, 14, 16, 16, 16, that's great. That's what we need. 14, 16, so the sum divided by the length. But then here we don't need that, right? So before, what the mistake was that I just did cur is going to be start and end, and then sum of curseg divided by the length of curseg, which is really just end minus start, and result.append cur, and then just return result. So this is slow and it's not correct because, well, first of all, we don't want decimals, we want whole numbers, but now you can see that we don't want this interval overlapping. And if we submit this, this is what I tried last week that I got wrong. And today I was able to find my own workaround for it, which is basically to keep track of what we already have before we even start. And I'll show you what I mean, but for example here as well, if it's already in there, then don't append it. And then this is just a duplicate as well. And here it gets really tricky. So basically what you want to do is get a set and then add the start and the end, right? Oops, start end val s of 1, s of 2, scene.add start, scene.add end, and this is going to be key, print scene. As you can see, if you make some observations, all we're doing in terms of which segments we're taking is just this, and that's it. And then here, all we're doing is just this segment, and then this segment, and then this segment, and then this segment, right? This segment, and then this segment. So that makes things a lot easier, because now we just have to turn scene equals to a sorted list of the same set, right? So we can actually index into it. Cool. So now that makes life a lot easier, because we don't have to go through the segments like this again. And what we can do is instead for I in range 1 length of scene, because we want to go like this, and then say the previous, and then the previous, and the current, right? So each pair. And then we can just change start to be, so the start is just going to be scene of I minus 1, and then scene of I, so start and end, right? And the value is going to be, well, let's do this for now. Let's get rid of this. 16 of I. And as you can see, we don't even need the value because we already have that here. We already computed that, and that was what this whole thing was about, right? So this is great because now this fits perfectly. And again, it takes a lot of trial and error, and it did take me a while, but I did come up with this on my own at the end, which I'm pretty proud of. So let's go ahead and try to submit this. Ooh, okay. One more edge case. What is it? So let's call this now is going to be k of start to end. Let's just make this a little more pretty. Oh, sorry, now is going to be the sum divided by n minus start. So if we use this test case, what you'll notice is we don't want the sum to be 0. So cur sum is sum of k to start end. Oh, so if now is not equal to 0, then we can do this, right? Because if now is 0, then we don't want to include this segment at all. And again, it does take quite a bit of trial and error, but I got it on my own at the end, so there you go, passes all test cases. So again, not the most efficient, but just shows you that that's how you do it. And if you keep at problems for long enough, eventually you'll come up with your own solution, and that's much better than looking at someone else's. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.